Hey guys, Roland again with Safe Financial, back with another video. And today I want to cover another common refrain online, which is that cash value life insurance is a terrible investment. And to that I say two things. One, cash value life insurance is not an investment. And two, if what you're after is rate of return, you're barking up the wrong tree. Cash value life insurance is not likely to compete or beat your normal investments, nor was it ever designed to, okay? If what you're after is performance, cash value life insurance is not it. Despite what you hear from other agents or advisors out there that preach that this is the answer to everything. Cash value life insurance is not the answer, especially if what you're after is rate of return. But what I will advocate for are the things that it does well. For one, it complements really well with other investments. Real estate is a perfect example of what cash value life insurance can be used with, not in use, not in competition with, but to complement other investments. And in particular, I listed 5 reasons or 5 strengths that cash value life insurance has that can complement your other investments. Number 1 being liquidity. Liquidity meaning you have access to it, unlike your 401k. If you put money in your 401k, you can't really touch it until you get past 59 and a half. That's age, 59 and a half. So that's a long time, especially if you guys are out there in your 20s, your 30s, or your 40s even. You can't touch that money without any penalty unless you're age 59 and a half or older. So cash value life insurance gives you access to your money while you're still living, while you're still working, while you're still building up to it, okay? So liquidity is important because you have access to the money to use for other things rather than locking it up, not to be touched. Now, for some people, without any discipline, liquidity could be a bad thing. If you're not disciplined and you grab a hold of your 401k money because they let you access it without any penalties, which is not the case, then liquidity might be a bad thing. But if you're a business owner or if you have other things you may want to invest in, having liquidity to your savings account and be able to utilize it for other things becomes very helpful. So number 1, and its main superpower, I think, is liquidity, especially if we're using this as a strategy for people that are self-employed or business owners, real estate developers especially. You're able to utilize that money at the same time that it's being leveraged for this use. And speaking of leverage, number 2 is leverage. That benefit is unique to life insurance, and that if you don't know what leverage is, that's controlling something a lot bigger with something that's smaller. And in this particular case, if let's say you're made your first premium payment of $500 towards the cash value life insurance policy. The moment the insurance carrier receives your initial payment, you have now gained leverage, because if that $500 covers $1 million worth of death benefit, for your $500, they are now on the hook for $1 million worth of death benefit. So the same day they cash your check, you don't make it home because you got in a car accident, they're on the hook for that $1 million with one payment. So that's where the leverage comes in. So leverage as part of a cash value life insurance policy is the number 2 superpower that it might have. Number 3 is its tax favorability. Like your 401k, the growth inside of a cash value policy grows tax deferred. So it'll compound over the years without you having to pay any taxes on that amount of money. What's unique to the life insurance is that you have access to that money. Like I said before, liquidity. You have access to that money and not have to pay taxes by taking it out on a loan. Now, I don't want to get into it in this particular video, but there's one way for you to access the money through a loan. Yes, you have to pay interest on that, but you're also earning interest in the policy while you're paying the interest. That's called an arbitrage, but I won't get into it in this particular video because I want to keep it simple and short. So you've got liquidity, access to the money. You've got leverage because you pay one premium and you get to control this much money by way of death benefit and living benefits. Tax favorability gives you tax deferred growth like a 401k or an IRA, and tax-free access. Better than CD and money market returns. So it's not going to gain as much rate of return as an investment, but it's not going to lose any money either. And it's always going to gain more than money markets and CDs as far as rate of return is concerned. Expect somewhere between 3 to 6% rate of return in most policies designed properly after the fees. Okay, so over the years, it's safe to say 3 to 6%, which is going to be hopefully better than inflation to keep up with it. Number 5, and probably the best reason to own cash value life insurance is its utility. Utility meaning that it can be used for a number of things outside the policy, especially after it's grown over time. And a perfect example, again, going back to real estate, say you get into it at maybe year 12 and you've got $180,000 worth of cash value built up into the policy. You can take a portion of that, let's say $100,000, to put down towards a rental property or a fourplex, right? So when I say utility, you're able to take the money out as a loan for the fourplex. You're going to collect rents from the fourplex. Net rent meaning after all the expenses, there's going to be profit. Otherwise, why do it if you're not making any profit? So you used it as down payment. You're collecting rents from the rental property. Appreciation over time. Most real estate properties will go up in value over time. And as your tenants pay your rents, you're paying down the mortgage. So your mortgage is coming down, the value is going up. You're building equity inside that rental property. Again, a utility is endless. And then as you build that equity and you're putting money back into the policy by putting the profit back into the policy, paying back the loan, you're now building more equity, more cash value for your next project. Oh, and by the way, most loans happen this way. Let me explain. If let's say that the policy had, like I told you, $180,000 in cash value. You took out $100,000 to put down on the property. If this would have been your bank, you would have $80,000 left to earn interest because you took this out. Well, because this is a policy, the way it works is your 180 grand, and let's say in this instance earns 5%, okay? And on the loan, let's say you're paying 6% loan. So 6% of 100 grand is $6,000. 5% of 180 is what is that? 40 is 9,000. Okay. You earned 9,000 interest. You paid 6,000 in interest. For that year, you're 3,000 to the good. That's how the loan works. Because the entire 180,000 of cash value is still earning all the interest that's going to earn for that year. And then the 6% on the 100 being the 6,000, if you deduct that, you're going to be in a positive by $3,000 for that year. Now, what happens if, let's say, the stock market was down that year? Then you would earn 0 for that year. You won't lose any money, but you earn 0, and you paid 6,000 right here in a loan. 6,000 of interest would be charged to your loan. Again, if you went and got it from the bank, it would do the same thing. The difference is some years when you actually have a positive rate of return, you have an arbitrage to be able to make up to with that. So that's the way loans work. Again, utility being the most important, at least in my mind, use for a cash value life insurance policy. That's the way it works. Okay, so again, fast forward. You're building equity in a rental property. You've got more cash. You have the availability to buy another property. Meanwhile, let's say you're 180. Years later, it is now 350. Okay. What else can you do with that money? Many things. And as the cash value grows, so does the death benefit. Again, because it's a life insurance policy, there's a death benefit that's going to be greater than the cash value, number one. Number two, there's living benefits, which is a percentage of the death benefit. Should you develop cancer, stroke, major heart attack, unable to take care of yourself, can't do activities of daily living, you have access to that money. Again, life insurance is not an investment, but there's a lot of things you can do with it, especially once the cash is built up. And if you design it properly to keep your cost of insurance down in your later years, if this is your cash value, make sure your death benefit, and you can call the insurance carrier, is reduced to the point where you don't have much on top of this as far as cost. So in other words, if your cash value is 350 and you're able to control how much death benefit is in there, keep it at a minimum. By design, you can do that, right? Switch it to level or whatever it is that they need to do to try to control the cost of insurance. Just one of the many things you can do with cash value. Business owners, if you have at any given time in your savings account 50, 100, 150 grand, 300 grand just sitting there earning nothing, having it run through a policy, let's say you have 100 grand available, instead of sitting at the bank, you run that through the insurance carrier, right? Just running through your money from sitting here to here, it's going to buy a certain amount of death benefit. It's going to build a certain amount of cash value rather than leaving it parked here, having it here. Real estate, uh, real estate developers and real estate investors, same thing. Rather than leaving your cash sitting in your bank, if you leave it with the insurance carrier, if you're not touching it for a while, that cash yields so much death benefit and in turn living benefit just by parking the money there. You have access to it. Most of the money you have access to. If something were to happen, or if you needed access to, say, that 100 grand that you put in there, if it's designed properly, you have access to 90% of that to use for other business ventures. Meanwhile, that 100 grand is still going to earn, the full 100 will earn interest for that year. And if that 100 happens to be 750K, same thing. Again, a lot of utility and cash value life insurance. It's not about the rate of return. It's about what you can do with it elsewhere while it's earning interest inside the policy. Roland Harmio, Safe Financial, 985-464-9595. See you next time.